there. I didn't see you come in. I'm just doing some reading, enjoying a nice pipe here in my study. Full of leather-bound books and a desk made of strong mahogany. Would you like some wine? Yes, I keep my wine in a camping thermos. It's manlier. Thank you for joining us for our Father's Day special. Cheers. Cheers to all the fathers. To all the manly men who read books, smoke tobacco, smoke healthier non-tobacco herbal blends, drink deep red wines, and the occasional bubbly pink wine, and cry strongly. Cheers to a complex and multifaceted version of masculinity and dadness. Cheers to all of you fathers out there. Whether you prefer New Balance shoes, sandals with full woolen socks underneath them, smoking jackets and dens, or baseball hats and beer, or water skiing, whatever you are as a man, whatever you are as a father, thank you for your part in creating the next generation, for being there for us through our lives. As a man, I was once a boy, and a man raised me. He was a great man. When I was young, I wondered why he wasn't like other dads. It was only much later that I realized no dad is like other dads, because every dad is his own dad. And being a dad isn't just one thing. It's being whatever you are and loving your children. I technically think the definition of dad is just having a son, but I think really being a dad is something slightly more complex. But there is no one dad. Therefore, to each of you dads, however you dad, cheers to you for daddy. Indeed. Anyway.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our Father's Day special. And sorry to so rudely interrupt myself from this morning. You guys probably thought that was actually live, but that was me getting drunk this morning in our father's library and study. And recording myself. Fun times.
I was laughing. You couldn't tell because of the mask. I won't be able to drink with that on anyway, so take it off for the moment.
Yeah. So yeah, we're going to be tasting through some awesome wines here. We've got a very manly lineup here of 5 different red wines of varying degrees of manliness and red wininess. So should be good times. And yeah, let's see. We've before we do any tours around here, I usually like to start with a tour. I should tell you who we are. We are Voluptuary and Lucid Wines, and my name is Kevin Luther. I'm the owner and winemaker here. And
I'm Jerome Luther, and it's good to start with that because, as you can maybe guess by the name, we are brothers. With the jawline, the laughing at our own jokes. But we have the same father, so as well as honoring fathers in general today, we're going to take some time and talk about him in particular. So,
Yeah, so on that note, cheers to all of you fathers out there. Let me get a little something in my glass. Uh, and, cheers to all the fathers watching today. And
You can have like a full shot, regular shot?
I think I'm going to have exactly a shot. So I've got my cargo short and fanny pack there. Let's see. There we go.
It comes in handy when, like mowing first thing in the morning.
Yeah, and out on the barbecue and you have all your tools on you. So there we go. So perfect.
And I'm going to pour a little bit of Lucid. This was our father's favorite wine, and it is mine.
So, again, cheers to all the fathers out there, and also cheers to our father. And
if we're drinking in honor of Dad, we should go like, woo, afterwards.
Woo! And some for him there as well. Woo! Good stuff.
Getting loose, he called it.
So cool. Now that we've cheers,
I hear we're getting an echo effect, sound loop.
Oh,
maybe.
Uh-oh. That's no bueno. Never happens during any of the test runs, only during the live one. Let's see.
In true fatherly fashion, we act like we really know what we're doing and have no idea how to work this technology stuff. We kind of just press buttons frantically and hope something works better next time. If they're turning it off and on and the oil canister doesn't fix it, we can sometimes get a little confused and scared. So let's hope he can get this done over here. And I don't know. I just got a message on there that there's an echo. We can probably keep going, and then if we get more clear information, go from there.
All right. Well, for a moment, I'll let them continue watching my dad scene.
Oh, you switch over? Was I talking to people in any of that, or when I was like monologuing there to kill time, dad joking?
Whatever you are as a man, whatever you are as a father, thank you for your part in creating the next generation, for being there for us through our lives. As a man, I was once a boy, and a man raised me. He was a great man. When I was young, I wondered why he wasn't like other dads. It was only much later that I realized no dad is like other dads, because every dad is his own dad. And being a dad isn't just one thing. It's being whatever you are and loving your children. I technically think the definition of dad is just having a son, but I think really being a dad is something slightly more complex. But there is no one dad. Therefore, to each of you dads, however you dad, cheers to you for daddy. Indeed. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to smoking my pipe of herbs and burning my Palo Santo, because although I could light my pipe directly with a lighter, it just doesn't fit my version of manliness. Looking forward to drinking some wine with you very soon. Adieu. Okay, I believe the echo is gone. Let us know if you hear any more weird sound effects. Otherwise, I believe we are back to normal audio visual, and hopefully the volume is loud enough. Let us know if you're having any trouble hearing us. We can adjust that microphone volume, or if there's any other feedback stuff. I have no clue how to fix that, but if you tell us, I can at least know.
We'll just talk really loud.
Exactly. So,
we should probably jump into our first wine.
Yeah, let's jump into the first wine. So, the first wine, let me open that for you.
I wouldn't recommend that.
You can open your corks, but just by hand, but I think it's far more interesting to do it this way.
Interesting, seems appropriate.
Let's see. We'll get this. So, this first wine is the V4, the Source. Pinot Noir Grenache blend. This blend is a very unique, manly blend that I created that is a mixture of Pinot Noir and Grenache. Both organically grown, the Pinot Noir from Santa Cruz area and the Grenache from up in Calaveras County, foothills area of California. So you get a mixture of that coastal influence Pinot Noir and some low beginning of the mountains, Sierra Nevada's high altitude Grenache. So while both of those grape varieties produce a lot of red fruit flavors, that coastal influence makes the Pinot spicier, and that mountain high altitude influence makes the Grenache spicier.
And it's aged in French oak with cherry influences, and you kind of taste some of that as well. It ties into those orchard fruit flavors, and some of that just smooth, luscious notes, like you said, somewhere in between the coast and the mountains.
Yeah, and that's really what I'm going for in a blend, is to take different influences and mix them together in a way that creates a spicier, kind of funkier flavor. And just a little more going on there. It can also be a little more balanced sometimes.
And we started this lineup with this red, because although it's a red, you can see not only in the coloration, but you can taste it in there. It's much lighter. It has complexity, but it's not those deep, dark, smoky complexities. It's those different fruits and different, just flavor notes.
Yeah, and you do get, I think you do get a little bit of smokiness, but it's not, it's more...
Not compared to these two here, for example.
Yeah, because some of the later wines I actually age on even some charred whiskey-style oak, as well as stuff like cedar and cypress and maple and hickory, whereas this is aged on cherry, which adds a little bit of extra cherry flavor, but also this sort of white and black pepper, caramely, round goodness. So, let me check my notes on this wine. I'm literally just looking through a sheet of papers that are all the same thing, but I believe I have some notes on here somewhere. Yes, there we go. So, this is a 2018 vintage, and other than what I've described, I kind of hit all the key points there. This is one of my voluptuary wines, so it is fully organically certified grapes, organically made, sulfite-free, and vegan. 100%. All the voluptuary wines are. Whereas the lucid wines are a little bit more laid back. They're still natural and organically made, but they're not necessarily certified organic. So, that being said, this voluptuary wine is one of the other interesting things about it is all of the art from them comes from Robert and Shauna Park Harrison. Out on the East Coast, they're just epic fine art photographers that do really kind of trippy, manipulated analog photography. And, all right, my other pairings. So I did promise you guys some dad joke pairings, but I'm going to start with the other pairings and finish with the dad joke. So for this wine, the music pairing is by Johnny Cash. It is Sunday Morning Coming Down. If you guys don't know this song, I did this music pairing partly because our father really enjoyed to drink his wine in the morning. And in this song by Johnny Cash, he's speaking of beer, but I think the sentiment is appropriate. He says, "I had a beer for breakfast, and it was good, so I had one more for dessert." So, if you have a glass of wine or two in the morning, especially on Sunday morning when you're coming down, it's a good way to start the day and, gets you energized and loosened up, ready for some lawn mowing or gardening or soccer, whatever the case may be. However you, man.
And then my food pairings for this, I think this is a wine that goes really good with your lighter red meats and even white meat, like chicken, pork, duck, any kind of fowl in general. Localis Sacramento did a jerked quail dish that was amazing with this.
That was great.
That was good. And my literary pairing for this, well, okay, so for every wine I'm going to have a literary pairing. But before I get into the literary pairings, I wanted to start with because they're all literary quotes, right? I want to start with a quote about books, just to get the ball rolling. And the quote is, outside of a dog, a book is a man's best friend. Inside of a dog, it's too dark to read. That's from Groucho Marx, The Essential Groucho is the name of the book. And my actual literary quote to pair with this wine is from Saul Bellow, The Adventures of Augie March, which is one of our dad's, it was one of his favorite books.
Well, that Groucho Marx book was as well.
One,
I knew that joke before you even said it. I knew which one you were going to say because we both read that book. Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't from the book Beds, which is one of his other classics. It was from, a different one. Anyway, so Saul Bellow said in this book, boredom is the conviction that you can't change. It is the shriek of unused capacities. This felt like a very good piece of fatherly advice. And I know this is one of my father's favorite books because it was one of his father's favorite books. So I imagine him reading that when he was younger and really absorbing that piece of wisdom because it certainly matches the kind of wisdom he taught us. Then my dad joke for this, my dad joke pairing, as promised, is, just kind of, well, it's not so much a joke as a story. We went over to our older brother John's place last night. John and his wife Jamie invited us over to have dinner with them and their 4-year-old son Sam. And
5.5.
Well, no, he's 4. And so his son, Sam's a really smart kid for 4 years old. He's crazy smart. And, he's been learning Spanish by computer since the lockdown with, all this social distancing and stuff. But he's learning Spanish. It's really impressive, but he still can't say please, though, which I think is really poor for 4.
Oh, I ruined the setup. Yeah, like that. Also very dad-esque. Yeah, no, that was well played. You're wondering why Kevin's doing the dad joke pairings is because I do dad joke pairings for the wines every week, basically. Like I don't honor it one day a year. It's like, anything else I'm passionate about.
Yeah,
right. It's Black History Month. They're like, you can't tell dad jokes in just one day.
No,
it's an all-year thing.
It's we're training. Neither of us have kids yet, but we're both, I think, well prepared.
It's my best fatherly asset, ladies.
So that's the first wine. You can find this all over the place locally. It's at the Sacramento Natural Foods Co-op. It's been at Localis in the Rind before. A lot of really cool spots. So now you guys can grab that second wine. If you haven't already finished up that first one. And the second wine is our V7 Da Vinci's Wings Zinfandel. It's from Voluptuary. And let's see. I think I have... Yes, I have it right here.
Stay prepared.
Yes, fanny packs. Very useful.
I asked him where you get the ones that are over on the side at 45 degrees. Apparently they're the same as the normal ones. You just move them. It's like those cool hats the kids wear.
Yeah. So, this wine, now you're getting to something a little bit... I just can't do that. You're getting to something a little bit heavier, a little bit spicier. This is definitely a spicy style Zinfandel. More pepper, more cinnamon, more earthiness. And drier. A little more acid, a little more dryness. This is high altitude Zinfandel. Organically and biodynamically grown at Narrowgate Vineyards in Placerville area in El Dorado County at about 2,800 feet. Super high elevation, which is why it's so spicy. Then on top of
what about the high elevation makes it spicy?
It's
and how the grapes grow? Is it how...
A little bit of it is uncertain, but the general idea is that at higher altitudes, two things happen. One is it's a little cooler. So you might be in a latitude that, you know, in a valley would be hot, but if you're in high altitude, it's much cooler overall. And cooler climates tend to be spicy
too, huh?
It's also that at higher altitude, yeah, you're amongst the mountains. You have, in our region, it's decomposed granite because the mountains are formed from granite. And then as the mountains crumble and in the elevations, you have both granite and decomposed granite. So very rocky soils. And that volcanic granite historical influence combined with the just very rocky soil makes the vines struggle. And that struggle makes it produce more flavor. Not just fruity flavor, because you get fruity flavor in hot valley climates that are very rich, but in the mountains you tend to get more spicy flavor. It's something to do with the cold night temperatures in particular, and the rocky soils.
Right. So like the sun is almost just, it overheats it, and so it gets it to this overripe
Like
sort of raisiny status.
Exactly.
But when it's in the higher elevation, it's almost more like dehydrating it instead or something.
Yeah.
Same concentration, but a different angle on it.
Exactly. People tend to find that the spice is more concentrated. The wines are more
Not
colorful and
fruitiness
more,
so much.
yeah, just a little more astringent and bitter bite to it. So you get that in this wine. I like it. Also aged on some cherry and some maple. All right. So, tasty wine. I enjoy that one. Check my notes.
You got pairings for this as well?
Yeah, my music pairing for this is Old Man by Neil Young. There's not really anything to do with the wine. It's just that, you know, old man. And I like Neil Young. Totally dad music too, right? Food pairings, for me, pairs with steak, shiitake mushrooms, stir fry, or like darker sauces like hoisin soy sauce, just because I think something salty and rich really helps take the edge off what is otherwise a kind of, on the palate, intense wine.
And I could see it as well working real well with fatty stuff, pork or duck or something, because the same way, the spiciness and some, you know, some of the notes on this, like, that could work really well with that fattiness to kind of cut it.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's one of those little shortcuts in food and wine pairing for you guys at home is if a wine is like really heavy in a really like winey way, you know, higher alcohol, higher tannins, like bitter and astringent, mouth puckering, harsh, whatever, that wine with food will shine, first of all. And second of all, particularly with fatty and salty foods. Like, if you're ever hesitating, like, what should I get to pair with wine at this fancy event or, you know, dinner from someone I care about?
Voluptuary or lucid wines is the answer.
Yeah, we're the wine. That's the easy part. But the hard part is, like, what's the food, right? You can never go wrong if you choose fatty and salty foods. Cheese is like a shoo-in because it's both of those. But, like, olives and pickled things actually work surprisingly well.
Preserved meats.
You know, just like if you're vegan or vegetarian, like you can do marinated like tofu or tempeh and soy sauce and other kind of salty, you know, complex dishes. So
roasted salted nuts or spiced nuts.
Yeah, totally. So, okay. And then my literary pairing for this is one of the first authors my dad introduced me to. But it's from a book that he wasn't actually as much of a fan of. I really liked, though, called Travels with Charlie, In Search of America. It's John Steinbeck as an old man, actually. It's autobiographical of him driving an RV around the U.S. and just kind of like with his dog. His dog's named Charlie. And just musing on the meaning of America and his own life and manliness and so on. So I really like this quote. And I've tried to live by it, really. I have always lived violently, drunk hugely, eaten too much or not at all, slept around the clock or missed 2 nights of sleeping, worked too hard and too long in glory, or slobbed for a time in utter laziness. I've lifted, pulled, chopped, climbed, made love with joy, and taken my hangovers as a consequence, not as a punishment. Yeah, so I really like that. It's just like living big, making no excuses, just living with force and purity of intention and doing. And yeah, if you get a hangover, hey, it's a consequence. It's the result of your actions. It's not a punishment. Just, you know, you did some things and you did them all the way and shit happened.
Balance through extremity.
Yeah, exactly. I like that idea. Balance through extremity. So that is my literary pairing. Very deep, manly. My dad joke is so my wife told me to there was a spider in the house, and my wife told me to take the spider out instead of killing him. I just wanted to kill him, but wanted me to take the spider out instead of killing him. So we went out. We had a few drinks. Nice guy. He's a web designer.
Didn't eat much.
Right.
I'm going to take this moment before our third wine and take you guys on a quick little tour of our place. We haven't done one of these in a little while, but it's about time to do that. So, first, our tasting area where we also do our show. Coming over here to our packaging department, and you can see our sign over there. You can't touch your face with a drink in each hand. We follow our Corona safety rules very stringently around here. Over here in the back, you see storage and winemaking. There's a ladder out. It just seemed appropriate. Cut back this way. Over here, it's our lounge area. You see chairs, things to put your feet up on. Our Ottoman Empire, so to speak. And over in here, you get a view of our subscription packages and our tasting kits. You got our 3 different tasting kits there, or 4. The 25 milliliter little shot glass tasting kit, the 100 milliliter 2/3 of a glass tasting kit, the couples pack with 2 kits and a bottle, and your 5 bottles up top. And on the left, you see some of the different gift options that go along with our subscription packages. They're monthly, and we're going to be introducing a quarterly option. And you get local artisan gifts, things like cutting boards and corkscrews and mason jars, things along those lines. So that is the tour of our shop. Coming back over here.
Oh, I didn't hear you say anything about that button.
Well, I said if the light is blinking from me touching the
I
button.
didn't hear you say anything.
We lost like 5 minutes.
I'm sorry, folks. Apparently, we accidentally hit the mute button. In the future, we'll be more careful with that mic and leave it in place. But what we were just talking about was the L5 Primal Syrah. It's a very deep and rich red wine that comes from Jim Chapman's vineyard in Amador County. He grows grapes in a way that is really he grows them very healthy, and then he starts sort of challenging them just as they're flourishing and ripening. He stops irrigating them and he forces them to struggle. And it's sort of a dad analogy for how to raise children, and you know, a lot of dads raise children of you know, helping raise them strong and then helping them struggle too to gain character. And these grapes overall gain a lot of spice and fruit through this struggle. And so as he pulls out of the irrigation, then he gives them just enough water to keep them healthy. And then he lays off the irrigation again, and then he gives them a little more. They're constantly struggling, but never quite falling apart. And it keeps them going. So then, these grapes build that really intense flavor that way, which is one of the reasons why this wine has such intense flavor. So this is aged on some cherry wood as well as some maple. And while these are not organic grapes, they are made organically, the wine. Sulfite-free, vegan, all that good stuff. And then, since we're on our first Lucid wine, I'll mention that all of the art for Lucid is done by Micah Crandlebear. He's a local Sacramento artist. And he really cool art. He does all of the Lucid labels, and I just love his style. He also grew up with all of us, but went to school with our older brother. So then my music pairing for this wine is Mr. Tambourine Man by Bob Dylan. And we played this at our father's funeral a few months ago, and I think my older brother John played this. I think it's a beautiful song, and Bob Dylan was one of our dad's favorites. And then my literary pairing for this is from Ernest Hemingway. It's a quote from him. And he says, "The best people possess a feeling for beauty, the courage to take risks, the discipline to tell the truth, the capacity for sacrifice. Ironically, their virtues make them vulnerable. They are often wounded, sometimes destroyed." So, I like Ernest Hemingway in general, but so much of his writing is just beautiful in the whole book. It was kind of hard to find it. I wanted to get a quote from him, but so much of his stuff is more like broad through the whole narrative. So I do have a second quote for this one, actually, just so I can throw in more quotes. And this is more directly relating to our dad. It's from Michael Pollan, and it's from his book Second Nature, A Gardener's Education. Our dad was a big fan of gardening, and the quote is, "Lawn care was gardening aimed at capturing the admiration of the street, a ritual of consensus I did not have my heart in. I began to entertain idle fantasies of rebellion. Why couldn't I plant a hedge along the road, remove my property from the national stream of green? I planted fruit trees in the lawn to remove the monotony." So I think too many people plant lawns, and dads love mowing lawns, and that's cool. It's, you know, but I think there's something beautiful about planting trees and planting a garden. So feel free to try that. Okay, so dad joke. How do you make holy water? You boil the hell out of it. That hurt.
That hurt.
Yeah.
Getting out some bandages and proper, like,
Yeah, that's some alcohol wipe.
antiseptic alcohol wipe. From the self-inflicted burn.
So yeah, So that was a tasty wine, and now I believe we are ready for our fourth wine. So you can crack that one open. Number 4.
I'm making sure to get my wine out in the most dangerous way possible. Holding a knife, it seemed appropriate. And effective.
All right. So, this next wine here, the L4 Delirium Cabernet Sauvignon. This is one of our deepest, richest, heaviest, in some ways manliest wines. It's aged on a lot of woods. This is a Foothills Cabernet Sauvignon here from the foothills of California, and it was aged on maple wood, hickory wood, cedar, and cypress. So a lot of really extreme woods that add not only a spiciness, but almost a herbaceousness and earthiness and a weight to the palate.
So your dad has got that pile of wood from like other people's fences and things that have been taken down that should have been thrown away, and it's just sort of been accumulating over the years. This is basically aged with that wood selection, so it really like touches on all those points that a guy. Are we on? Are we?
Yeah, I was just checking stuff. So, after the mic going off earlier, I wanted to make sure things were working now properly. So, everything looks good. So, yeah, I think this is a wine that it expresses the grape variety. You get that dark fruit and weight of Cabernet Sauvignon. But it also, since Cabernet Sauvignon is already a wine where winemakers use a lot of oak on this to give it extra flavor. It's just common in Cabernet Sauvignon. It seemed like the natural wine to use other woods on. And cedar and cypress are flavors that are oftentimes described, particularly cedar, in Cabernet Sauvignon, because it tends to have this earthy, foresty, spicy flavor. So I just really wanted to accentuate that. So while this is a wine that can drink really, really well young, it also could age very well because it has all the things that go with aging well, like higher acidity, higher tannins, just more strength of flavor. That will mellow out with age, but right now it drinks very manly.
In a dad food metaphor, it's like a chili that is always going to be better the second or third day because all those intense flavors are going to meld together and sort of mellow into one new flavor over time, right?
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. Yeah, chilies, stews. It's definitely that sort of wine.
Yeah.
So, okay, my other pairings for this, we have our life pairing for this is building your own furniture or riding a stallion into battle.
Is that a manly thing anymore?
I don't know.
I think when the new revolution comes, the cavalry is going to be horse girls or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Like,
to be fair,
we're counting on you, ladies.
I just saw a Black Lives Matter march of people on horses, and it was mostly women. Yeah.
Dope.
So
that's another manly thing to do. Support women and people who need it, children, things of that like.
Indeed. It's like that song, "Damn, It Feels Good to Be a Gangsta." You guys ever heard that song? It's about what it means to be a gangsta, and I think it applies to what it means to be a man and a father. It's all about like doing good for your community and caring for those who need it and stuff. Okay. Then, my music pairing for this, on the note of hip hop, it's all hip hoppy things here, because fathers like hip hop too. And by Ice Cube, "It Was a Good Day." It's just a lot of nice, relaxing things fathers enjoy. But also, Brother Ali, Fahim. It's a song from his father from him, he's the father, to his son, Fahim. And there's a quote from it. He says the word brother, but he means his son. "It's you and me, brother, for life. So when you see me in the cloud, when you put me in the ground, look for me in the clouds. You make me the definition of proud. Taught me what this life's really about." Fahim. That's his son's name again. So
that is true. That's one of the best things I think about being a dad. I'm not a dad. I'm a godfather, but I just have high opinion of dads. But that's one of the best things about it is how being a dad helps define you. Not that it defines you, but it is just one more facet of what defines you. And it really, for a lot of people, I know it was true with me, with Maggie, made me into a better person. And it's not just you giving service and you being a like a servant of your family. It's you getting a chance to grow and, you know, be proud because of your kids. So
Yeah, I like that a lot. So then let's see.
yeah, and
My-
now from there, dad jokes.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, and to be honest, I'm rambling a bit. I was feeling a little drunk, and my cargo pants here. I remembered I had my police grade blood alcohol tester, so I thought I'd do a quick test since I got all this stuff in my cargo pants. Might as well use them. We'll see how. Where am I? And it's going to take a second there.
He's not bullshitting, folks. It's a real blood alcohol content meter.
I keep it here.
A bacometer, I think it's called.
We're going to have changeable tips. Maybe we'll save those post-COVID just anyways. But this is a good way to test your blood alcohol content.
The disposable parts, just the tip.
Yep, just the tip. Well, I'm 0.50.
He is half alcohol at the moment, folks. That's a true winemaker for you.
Cheers. I'm proud of myself. I'm still talking. So yeah, I'm roughly 5 times the legal limit of alcohol for driving. So I'll be walking home today.
So I guess I'll be pedaling the couple's bicycle today.
Yeah. All right. So my literary pairing here is from Mark Twain, and the quote is, "When I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant, I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much the old man had learned in 7 years."
And it also sort of like pairs as the dad joke.
Yeah, it's like halfway between a literary quote and a dad joke. So the actual dad joke is this. So yeah, I was getting ready for tonight's show, and out of nowhere, my daughter screamed at me, and she was like, "Dad, you haven't listened to one word I've said, have you?" Which I thought was a really strange way to start a conversation. Get it? Okay. So yeah, then food pairings for this. You have any good food pairings for this one?
I wasn't paying attention. I was just sort of laughing at you.
So yeah, this wine, I think food pairings for this: grilled mushrooms, stuffed peppers, because you have that sort of bell pepper flavor in Cabernet Sauvignon, and that pine and not pine, cypress and cedar adds some of that sort of peppery flavor to it. Wine that already has that.
You can generally, as well as more like specific things, go along with the darkness of your wine. I know it's kind of cliche, and it's not always true, but it's a good 80-20 rule of thumb, is that lighter wines are going to go with really white proteins, whether that's chicken or fish or tofu, and you start getting somewhere in the middle, your lighter reds, your rosés, whatever, that'll be with pork or chicken or, maybe like a dark fatty fish even, and then when you get really dark, that's when it's great. Red meat pairings, have that with some steak or some bison, and it's the same thing with fruits. Might have an apple with your white and a peach with, your median wines, and then you get into your heavy, dark stone fruits and, plums and blackberries. So you can, not always, there are a lot of other things we'll talk about as well, but gauging your color along with your food can often be a really good way to just, pair it decently off the start without any knowledge.
Yeah, very true. I think that, and I've tried to think about why this is. Like, why would the color of the things you're pairing with the color of the wine match up so perfectly?
Because they're both from the same thing. Neither is the cause to the other. They're both the effects of the same cause. Mm-hmm. It's the same reason why things that grow together go together. They're things that grow in that climate and will always be ripe at the same time. They're always going to be things enjoyed in that same temperature or climate. They're just going to, and they're also going to have more history of pairing behind them. Trying to pair like coastal Mexican, ingredients with some ingredients from like the Nordic regions. There's not going to be any recipe basis, and then whatever you come up with, it's not going to match anything. If you go along with those colors, you're kind of unintentionally getting back to the root cause, causing both.
Yeah, it's true. I think that, and if you dive into the genetics,
So you finished the whiskey? No wonder we're at 0.5. So
I don't mess around. You Saturday nights are a good time. So, all right, let's crack open that fifth wine here. Got that in my fanny pack here too. Pour that there, and so this last wine, this is our most rich and deep red wine. It's our L8 Wanderlust red blend, and it's Cabernet Sauvignon base. But then on top of that, I added Barbera and Zinfandel. So while Cabernet Sauvignon is that deep, dark, spicy style, nice backbone for wines, when you add the Barbera and Zinfandel on top, they add some fruitiness, but also just some complexity and spice. So I think this wine has that nice mix of darkness and richness, but broadness and smoothness at the same time. So it's intense, but also easy to drink.
And the thing I love most about it, and I know a lot of these things are used in, he's got other wines with the whiskey oak in it, which has some charring in it, and the hickory, which has that smokiness, and all those other varietals that he referenced. But this one in particular, I think those come through the most. That smokiness, that campfire, the thing that reminds you of your father's smoking den, or of a steak with those, heavy cross marks on it from your grill. Like, I know some people say like char is not a flavor, burnt is not a positive quality. But I disagree, and I think it plays off this. That's the bitter in the salty, sweet, sour, bitter, umami balance. And this wine does a fantastic job of pairing along with anything in that range. You have smoked meat, you've got jerky, you've got a portobello that you grilled up to put some hash marks on it. Those are all immediately from that char and that smokiness going to tie right into this.
Yeah.
And that is why this one is my favorite. And was my dad's, Yeah. He cooked over an open fire, and just would like char everything on there. And this is the wine to drink with food like that.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of wineries undervalue, is how much Americans love some smokiness. We love barbecuing. We love our smoking dens and our campfires and so on. So I think wines with a nice little smoky element are awesome. You shouldn't avoid that as a winemaker. Too many winemakers, I don't want to have a super over-the-top smoky element. It's like, no, you don't want it over the top, but a nice smoky element is a really nice part of a component of a wine.
Normally, any wine that has this kind of flavor profile, you're going to see on the shelf, like specifically labeled as like a whiskey barrel-aged mixed red wine, and then that'll be the entire sales pitch on it, and the label will be designed to match, and that's like the whole persona. This has that, but it's got all those other complexities you talked about.
Yeah.
That's just the element that stood out most to me.
Yeah. So with that all said, there was one question I saw that they said, "What's in the backpack?" Well, this isn't a backpack. This is a posture corrector. I got my whole dad outfit going on with the cargo shorts, the Hawaiian shirt, the fanny pack, and posture corrector. I got back issues, so just do what we got to do. So I'm going to finish up here with my literary pairing and my dad joke, and then the literary pairing is from Marcus Aurelius, from his book Meditations, ancient writer, classic, and he was kind of the father of Stoicism, the philosophical concept. And he said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. I think this is a really good piece of wisdom in the in this tradition of Stoicism. Yeah.
The tradition of Stoicism is also like a euphemism for fatherhood, right?
Yeah, damn near. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So, okay, I'm going to finish with my final dad joke of the evening. So, what's the best part about living in Switzerland? Yeah, I don't know, but the flag is a big plus. All right, folks.
Well, before we end, I had one more thing I wanted to do on a slightly more serious note, and I'm going to clear a little space. And I say slightly more serious because I'm going to take a minute to honor our father. And our father, he was a serious man in a lot of ways. He was very serious about his gardening and about his books. He was a valedictorian and a Toastmaster, but he also went to clown college for a year. His shtick was having his hair all slicked over to one side and carrying an umbrella so he could pretend to be fighting against the wind everywhere he went. So, anyway, he had to drop out of that. Apparently, that's not a very good shtick, but he did better at Marquette. Either way, I wanted to say some words in his honor. This is a eulogy that I prepared, and I said first at his funeral back in January. The way he would want it, I paid honor to him and what is good about him, while also basically mashing it up as a comedy roast. So, with that said, my dad was who he was, and I mean that in the best possible way. Most of us live in a state of dichotomy, never really achieving a balance between who we are and who we want to be, what we say and what we do, what we believe in, and how we live our lives. Dad didn't have that. He knew who he was, for better or worse, and he owned that and he lived that. He believed in growing food, not lawns, so he grew beautiful edible gardens everywhere he went, like a Disney princess leaving a path of greenery magically springing up in his footsteps. He believed in bikes, not cars, so he biked or walked everywhere he needed to go. I ran into him more wandering the city than I did at his house. He'd still brave a vehicle for family or travel, but for his daily mode of transportation, his own 2 feet would do. He believed that children should learn to do, so he taught us. And I didn't realize at the time how rare and special that was. To sew clothing, to build bikes from scratch, to fix broken things, to knead dough, to keep our cars tuned up, kinda. Siblings, sons, little Sam, he wanted us to know how to live and how to do things. He believed in reducing waste and using things to the last drop, so he saved everything. He reused, he repurposed, he preserved. He was so low waste that he literally didn't even have a recycle bin. He had a tiny little garbage bin, and we're not really sure if he actually used it. He believed in planting seeds, in nourishing and protecting them, in helping them grow and thrive, and not just sprinkling them on his granola. He believed in the transformative power of literature, so he filled his life with books and immersed himself in his library. He'd proudly show it to anybody and send them home with any book that caught their interest, and then immediately write their name down after they left so he could keep tabs on where his books were. Dad was who he was in a way very few of us ever achieve. He wasn't a perfect man, but he knew who he was, and he lived it truly and fully. And that's what I want to learn from the example that Dad gave us. Not to try to be him or to live his life. I'm not him, and I couldn't live his life, but to be the truest and fullest me. Thank you. We love you, Dad.
Happy birthday, Dad. was our father's, would have been our father's 72nd? Third.
148 math.
Yeah. It was his birthday today, and yeah, we honor him today. He was an awesome dad and an awesome man, and unlike anyone has ever met. Just an absolute one-of-a-kind individual. So
Let us know if you want a seed. We got everything you might want. Melons, peas, sunflower seeds. Curated by the man himself.
indeed. So thank you all for joining us, and cheers to all the fathers out there. I, since this is a slightly somber note, I just want to remind all of you guys that if you're, you bought this for your father today, or you are a father and you have your kids out there today who are tasting this with you, enjoy these moments you have together and appreciate the time you have together. I look back at all the times I spent with my dad, even arguments or him rambling, not letting me speak or whatever, and just they're golden. Appreciate every moment. Life is short, and
Yeah, and I hope it wasn't too somber. That wasn't the intent. The point is more like what Kevin said. Value your life, value your father, yourself, your loved ones. Cherish the moments. Doesn't mean, it's all gone when it's gone. It just, you got to cherish it while it's there.
Yeah, take advantage of those moments, and thank you all for sharing these moments with us. We hope to see you again for another one. We hope you've enjoyed the wine and our dad jokes and quotes and speeches and humor. Thank you.